Siomra beag.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the digital tiny room. We are, for the first time in 2 years, separated once again by time and distance. And I, being in the one who is in I am Michael, and I'm in the tiny. Look, I've gotten confused. I'm Michael, and I'm in the tiny room, and I am joined digitally, of course, by the man whose pop culture's hot takes are so infectious that COVID-19 has to self-isolate from him. It's Benjamin.
Ha! Coming to get you with my hot takes.
Coming at you with your hot takes.
Bum, bum. Yeah, we're both isolated, Michael, in self-isolation, as good Irish citizens should do.
What a pair of citizens we are.
What a pair of citizens are we, Michael? Nailing
Exactly.
it across the board. Michael,
Hello? Yes.
I have too much time on my hands.
Very good.
So much so that I've been practicing my impression of the theme music. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, I would actually. I would love to.
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music.
Almost
really
perfect, Michael.
That was
Almost
very clever.
perfect.
Benjamin, that was very clever. You've had too much time to sit around and think up little jokes to do.
I have actually had too much time this week, Michael. I'm going bloody insane.
Good. Well, one of the reasons you're going insane, Ben, is because everything is cancelled.
Everything is cancelled, Michael.
And not just, like, sex predators and Kevin Spacey.
No, everything is hashtag cancelled.
Absolutely everything is cancelled.
Michael, Bondi Beach has been cancelled.
Yeah. I see Wicklow isn't cancelled, though. Wicklow
has not been cancelled.
Wicklow seems to be fine.
I reckon, Michael, that
Go on.
today,
Yes.
of the many days, is
Yes.
going to be a very busy day in Wicklow because the sun is out, Michael, and people are probably going a little bit stir crazy. I think we're going to have a little outbreak of COVID-19 in Wicklow.
You know what they say, Ben? Sun's out, mom's out.
Yeah, apparently, especially after they've been cooped up with their kids for an entire week.
Ben, you know who won't have that problem, of course?
Go on.
The Black Widow.
The Black Widow won't have that problem, Michael, because she's been
sterilised.
hashtag cancelled.
Oh, yeah, she's cancelled and sterilised
Oh, yeah.
in the Red
Oh.
Room. Remember, it made her a
Oh.
monster.
Oh.
That wasn't great,
Oh.
was it?
That wasn't great. Joss Whedon
Probably
loves
should
to
cancel
make
him.
his women... Nothing makes Joss Whedon happier than when a woman is a monster because she can't have children. That's like his favourite Victorian trope, and he's kept it. There is no greater sin than not being a mother to Joss Whedon. Nothing makes a woman less of a human than the ability to not have children.
Ben, I think that were everything not cancelled anyway, we should probably cancel Josh Whedon.
We probably should. Just bad egg. Did so much good work in the 90s and then tanked it all.
Ah, look, Avengers was great. Anyway, Ben, yeah, it's hardly news that Black Widow is cancelled, is it? Everything else is cancelled. There's a little rumour swirling around the blogosphere, Ben, where
the
we
blogosphere,
are. The
Michael.
blogosphere. There's a little rumour swirling around that Wonder Woman is going to be released video on demand rather than cinematically,
Wow.
theatrically. That'll be a big change, won't it?
That'll be unusual.
Mm.
Do you think, Michael, and this is a genuine question, not in the purpose of setting up a bit, do you think this will change how movies are distributed?
Yes, Ben, I said that last week, didn't I?
Oh, did you? I
thought
don't
I
listen
did.
to you when I'm in the
I
tiny
don't
room.
like. Everyone knows you don't listen to the podcast, Ben. But
No, I don't.
I
genuinely make a concentrated effort not to.
Yeah, I do think that this might be the end of cinematoriums as we know them.
Ah,
Yeah, it'd be weird.
Cinetoriums are a fun experience, Michael, for all the family.
Yeah, but they'll go the way of every other popular culture thing that has ended its era, like the drive-through and the whatever else people used to enjoy that they don't anymore.
Radio?
The radio,
The radio box?
the jive hop.
No, Drive Hop's still alive and well, Michael.
Roller
In certain
derbies.
niche communities in Dublin, I think you know. As an avid Jive Derby fan myself, I think you're belittling and I feel a little bit called out.
You combined
On
the two
my-
things I was talking about there.
A Jive Derby, yeah, it's not for people who don't do Jive Derbies to know. It's a lingo. It's a special niche lingo. Anyway, Michael, what else has been cancelled?
Everything else is cancelled, Ben.
Everything else is
Everything's
cancelled.
Everything's
We've
cancelled.
been cancelled.
We haven't been cancelled. We're hanging in there. But
We're
Netflix, Ben, did you notice that Netflix and Disney Plus are both reducing their streaming speed?
Yes, because so many people are probably trying to use it, Michael, are they? Is
Yeah.
that why?
because there's a huge spike in internet use and people are finding it difficult to get online in Europe.
Yes, we're doing okay. I'm surprisingly okay. I was very worried about this morning's recording session, Michael.
No, we're fine.
Obviously, a 12 o'clock start or a half 12 start is a good time when people are just not on the internet.
People don't care anymore.
They don't care
what
anymore.
we're doing.
Anyway, yeah, so they must have lowered all the things, which is going to be very frustrating for them because they're going to get a lot of complaints.
Look, people who are complaining in this day and age, Ben, they can suck an egg.
They can go suck an egg.
This is the time not to complain about things. This is the time to suck it up.
Okay, like an egg.
Like an egg. Suck it up like an egg through the shell. Ben, speaking of good eggs.
Yes, there are many.
You enjoyed The Mandalorian Season 1.
I did immensely, Michael. Probably my favourite Star Wars property of all time.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, I will comfortably say that The Mandalorian is my favourite Star Wars property of all time.
I still don't have a Mandalorian action figure, Ben. We must remedy that one.
Yeah, no, that'll have to be fixed. Toot sweet, Michael. Toot
Very
sweet.
Good. I won't buy it from Amazon, Ben. I will buy it from a local supplier.
No, because you like to support local businesses, Michael, because you're a good egg.
More than ever, Ben, I think it's a time to support local businesses.
Yes, bloody get out there. Well, I mean, don't get out there right now.
Don't get out there.
Save up your money.
Yeah,
and
no,
then
or
get
text
out there
them.
when you get the all clear.
Or contact them and see if they're doing a home delivery service or a postal service or something like that.
Michael, do we know any good egg companies doing postal or delivery services?
I'm
and
sure
are
we
they
do,
sponsoring this podcast?
None of them are sponsoring this podcast, but I'm sure we do. I'm sure if you contact your local supplier of whatever you need, they'll work something out.
And try and
That's
get
all
it
I'm
to you.
saying, Ben. Yeah.
Try and get it to you. Right, lads, no Amazon, all local. Go for it.
Not no Amazon.
So if you want like the full party line here, guys, the full podcast party line is go suck an egg if you like complaining.
Yeah.
And local, not Amazon.
Yeah. Well, Ben, not no Amazon, because some of your specialist sex stuff you're not going to be able to get from local suppliers.
Yeah, that's what you think, Michael. That's what you think.
You've been making it from home for years.
I'm a proud homemade sex supply guy.
Very good. Excellent. A little bit itchier than you'd expect if it was shop bought, but look, it's fine.
That's what happens when you knit your own sex toys. The wool is itchy. What's really fun, Michael, is that we don't have the privacy of the tiny room. I'm in my family home, and my family are around, so they're just listening to me casually make these jokes, which is pretty weird.
We are, Ben, though. We do record this for public broadcast, so
I don't mind other people thinking I'm a weirdo. I prefer my family to
keep it secret from your family. Benjamin, we still haven't talked about the news about The Mandalorian. We're just
Sorry,
rambling.
yeah, go on. We are rambling. We've been trapped in the house for a long time, Michael.
Benjamin, in a bit of fan casting come true, Rosario Dawson has been cast as an adult Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, get in there.
Isn't that interesting?
I think it is very interesting. I thought, Michael, and this is going to get me into some very big trouble now, I thought Rosario Dawson was a bit older, but then, of course, Michael, her story has been expanded massively since Star Wars Rebels, whereupon she's a much older Jedi Master, or not a Jedi Master, because she isn't a Jedi. She's a much older Force user. Is that better?
Isn't The Mandalorian set between the original series and the prequels and the follow-ups?
Yes, I think so, yes.
And isn't that also when Rebels is set?
Yes, so they all match up. It's all fine.
It makes sense.
It's all fine. I like Rosario Dawson, Michael. I like Ahsoka Tano.
Well, if you look at it this way, Ahsoka Tano was a kid when Ben Kenobi was still Ewan McGregor.
Was still a fit young man.
Yeah, when he was still Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor. Use the Force, Luke.
There's a Force disturbance, Master.
To be fair to Ewan McGregor, that's very unfair.
That's a very good Ewan McGregor accent. But anyway, so by the time it takes Ewan McGregor to become Alec Guinness, a child could easily become Rosario Dawson.
Yes, that's very true, Michael. You've hit the nail on the head with regards to aging and linear time.
I have a lot of time to think about Rosario Dawson's age.
Yes, and how's it going?
Good, yeah. She's going to be Ahsoka Tano in
it's going to be great.
In The Mandalorian Season 2. If it ever gets made, Ben!
It will get made. You can animate, or no? Oh, sure, of course, it's a live action show now, Michael. It's so hard to keep up with all these animated, non-animated thingamajigs. I'm looking forward to when we see the Mandalorian in one of the animated shows. That'll be good, voiced by Pedro Pascal. No, I mean this. A couple of fans have pointed out this is a real Dave Filoni thing because one of the executive producers on the Mandalorian is, of course, the showrunner of Clone Wars. That's how we got to see
Mary Sue's.
That's how we got to see the vibroblade at the end of the Mandalorian, the dark saber. And contrary to popular belief, that is not one of my most best-selling homemade sex toys.
No.
The dark saber
woolly.
is a famous Mandalorian lightsaber. It was made from a black crystal, so it's all black and scary. So that it comes directly from the Clone Wars, and now Ahsoka Tano is going to leap from the animated universe into the live-action universe. Bring it on, Rosario. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, look,
Looking forward to it.
That'll be good. Ben, do you know here at the podcast,
Yeah,
Michael and Benjamin's podcast, this podcast?
our podcast.
Yes, the one we do. You know it?
Yeah, yes,
One
yes.
of the two we do, as well as our other one, our bi-weekly comic book club collecting issues.
Coming this Wednesday.
Coming this Wednesday. But on this podcast, Ben, you and I, both of us, are huge fans of the horror of the cosmic variety. But mostly
yes,
me,
well, in fact, Michael, many people would say that it's through this podcast that I've become a fan of cosmic variety horror.
Oh, very good. Benjamin,
Yeah.
what would you say is H.P. Lovecraft's strongest short story?
Oh, From the Mountains of Madness.
That's pretty popular, all right. Generally, Ben, considered to be his best short story is the short story The Colour from Outer Space.
Ooh, sounds good.
It is good, Ben. It's about a farmstead, a heath,
Yes.
a blasted heath, which has rumours of being evil and haunted.
Oh no.
And it all turns out, Ben, to be not really evil and haunted, but in fact an alien life form has landed there and is infecting the local surroundings to make the world more like itself.
Oh, that's like Natalie Portman in Annihilation.
Annihilation, Ben, you'll remember, is very, very,
Annihilation.
very, 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 very thematically similar to that story.
It sounds awfully similar,
It
Michael.
is.
That sounds bloody close.
And you'll remember, Ben, in The Colour from Outer Space, that the alien was H.P. Lovecraft's effort to make an alien that was completely alien.
I thought you were about to say the alien was H.P. Lovecraft.
No, then it would be
I was
racist.
like, that would be a racist
A
alien.
very racist alien.
Yes, no outsiders here. So to make the most alien thing he could possibly conceive,
The most alien
was
he
the
could
goal.
possibly alien. Not just like some kind of Earth-compatible life form that had a few quirks, but something that was
Right.
completely... the idea of trying to understand it itself doesn't make sense.
Okay,
So the alien...
and did he succeed?
Well, the alien life form in the short story, Ben, is a colour. It's a sentient, possibly sentient, seemingly sentient colour.
Oh,
It's a malicious, it's an evil colour. I don't know if it's evil. No, you can't say it's evil, really, because all it seems to be...
because it's an alien.
Yeah, because you can't know its motivations. Its motivations are unknowable. Does it even have motivations, Ben? Who knows?
We can't possibly say, Michael.
Yeah. And it's one of H.P. Lovecraft's best science fiction horror concepts.
Really?
It's probably his best science fiction horror concept.
Good for him.
And yeah, Annihilation was really heavily inspired by it, obviously.
Obviously.
If you remember in Annihilation, we don't really see an alien either. The alien is...
No, there is no direct alien.
Well,
There's a lot of...
is there? Or is it just so incomprehensible it doesn't make sense to
Yeah,
us?
probably the latter, Michael. Probably the latter.
Annihilation, Ben, is probably the best adaptation of the story that has been done.
But Michael, there has been another adaptation of this
There
story.
have been multiple adaptations, Ben, including a German one.
Have there?
Yeah, there was a German one in the 90s, which apparently is the best Lovecraft adaptation ever made.
Okay.
But
And have you seen that one this week?
I haven't, no.
Ah, okay. Well, that's
Yeah, I know.
not great.
Yeah, well, that's why
So what?
that's why I wasn't bringing it up. You've kind of stood him a bit. But look, that's fine.
Why on earth are we talking about this?
Because,
then, Michael?
Ben, one of last year's biggest flops, and if you remember last week, we decided that we were only going to cover things that can be watched online.
Yes, because we're good people and we want to encourage at-home staying.
No more cinema.
No more cinema.
So,
And that's probably going to be an official thing in the future.
yeah, no more cinema. It's gone now. So last year, 2019, saw Colour Out of Space, starring,
Okay.
of all people, Nicolas Cage.
What?
Exactly.
Get out of town.
Exactly. And it's basically a pretty faithful retelling of the H.P. Lovecraft's original. But
I think I saw a trailer for this, Michael, and I kind of locked it away in my mind.
yeah, that's very
For
Lovecraftian.
good reason, I feel. Yeah, go on, tell me more.
So it's
tell me more.
the biggest difference is it's set in the modern times.
Oh, the modern times.
It's in the modern times. It's not in the olden times. It's in the modern times.
Oh, I see.
And Nicolas Cage and his family are a bunch of city folk who've become country locals.
Classics.
When suddenly, mysteriously, a meteorite lands on their farmstead and starts spreading a kind of evil colour.
Oh no!
Yeah.
What's the evil colour?
Well, that's the problem. In the book, it's kind of describing it as a colour is a metaphor because it's kind of incomprehensible.
Yeah,
You know-
you can't really nail that down.
Yeah, but in the film, it's purple.
okay,
It's just
okay, the colour
it's just
purple.
Yeah, it's Oprah. It's Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah,
going,
okay.
You get
Oprah's the
You
alien."
get a cosmic horror, and you get a cosmic horror, and you get a mutation, and you get a mutation.
And everyone gets a mutation.
Mutations for everyone. So anyway,
Yeah, nice.
and the color comes and infects the people, and now it's pretty true to the book, I feel, and it is horrific. It's a real, true horror film. To the point where
Okay.
I took a break in the middle of it when I went, this is very unpleasant, I'm going to take a break.
Not you, Michael.
Yeah, not scary.
You don't take breaks.
Not scary, just unpleasant. I was like, oh,
Michael doesn't take breaks.
this is a bit
What?
unpleasant.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
this is so out of character for Mick that they could literally use that quote on their DVD cover and it would sell many, many more copies.
This was so unpleasant, I took a break.
This is so unpleasant I took a break. Michael Leonard, Michael and Benjamin's podcast 2020,
2020.
and it would sell like hotcakes.
Because it's very unpleasant. But, Ben, there's one glaring flaw with the whole thing.
Nicolas Cage.
Exactly. And it's not really his fault, I feel.
Okay.
Because, it's a Lovecraft story, so spoilers here, obviously. But inevitably, Ben, everybody goes
Yes.
mad.
Yeah, but that's kind of how Lovecraft goes.
Exactly. Either something horrible happens to them, or they witness
Right.
something horrible and they go mad.
Okay.
Now, the problem with a film like that is when you cast Nicolas Cage as your family man trying to make his family or trying to make a living, a new start in life on a farm.
Right.
When you cast Nicolas Cage as the dad and he inevitably goes mad, it's not really much of a surprise.
Yeah, because that's kind of why you put
'Cause
Nicolas Cage in your movie.
It's not even that, though. He seems on edge for the whole film. So the fact that
Okay.
like if they cast bloody your man from The Office, what's his name? John
Steve
Krasinski.
Carell.
No, John Krasinski.
Oh, sorry, from A Quiet Place.
Yeah, if they cast John Krasinski, right, and then
Right.
he slowly went mad, and
Yes.
you'd kind of go, "Oh, this is serious." But when Nicolas Cage goes a bit mad, it's like, "Oh yeah, here we go." He was obviously mad the whole time.
Nicky boy. Nicky boy.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it takes away the tension, Michael, because we always expect him to have a little fit.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not that.
Oh, that's
it's
not what you're
that
saying. Then
I'm not that. I'm saying it's Nicolas Cage, so you know that he's going to go mad because that's why they've cast him. But he never seemed sane.
Okay, so on that level, purely.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. He's always a bit mental.
he's always a bit mental. So you're looking at him at the beginning, going, "Yeah, he's mental." I wonder, is he going to go mental when he's already
He's
clearly
fully tapped.
He's already mental. So can he go more mental? Can you go double mental?
Yes, well, Nicolas Cage probably can go double mental, but we probably shouldn't let him.
And
It's not a good idea.
Ben, this is the real joy. When he starts losing with his family, for some reason he
Yes.
decides to play it as a Donald Trump impression.
What?
Yeah, so he's like, "I'm telling you, you're going back into that barn and you're going to look at the llamas." And it's just
okay.
really weird.
That's so strange.
It's so strange. And then it's horrible. And horrible things happen and it's gross and disgusting. And
Oh, no.
yeah, it's one of the weirdest films I've seen in a while.
You okay?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm not saying it's necessarily good, but it's so close to good.
Is it from the same guy he did Mandy with? Was that the follow up to the one he did?
It's
Mandy?
from the same production company. I don't know if it's from the same director. The director wanted it to be the first in a trilogy of Lovecraft movies.
Oh God!
He was hoping
all starring Nicolas Cage.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. He was hoping for the next one to be the Dunwich Horror.
Which was that one?
That's the one about a gross monster creature that's in a small town.
Oh yeah, okay. I think I read this week, Michael. This very week, I read an adaptation from Mike Mignola of that exact tale.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, starring Sir Edward Grey, Witch Hunter.
Oh.
That's one of his kind of tie-in series for the Hellboy universe, but very good, very Victorian, very very Lovecraftian. I shall send you on my legally purchased digital copy because you should stay in the house, Michael.
I have to stay in the house, Ben.
And you can have a read of that.
I shall.
Yeah.
Andrew. Anyway, Ben, that's not really a recommendation, but look, if you're in and you want to be a bit creeped out, and you can have a high Nicolas Cage tolerance, why not, Ben? Why not give it a look?
Mick, what happened to Nicolas Cage?
He's a madman.
Yeah, but what happened? He used to be so good.
I don't think he ever was, to be honest.
Such an enjoyable actor.
I don't think he ever was good.
No?
What was he good in?
Not even a little. Lord of War was very good.
Was it?
It wasn't very good. Very good's a strong set of adjectives.
Well, you...
Adverb adjective.
we won't get into that then. Anyway,
yeah.
let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah,
Let's move
all
on.
right.
What are we talking about
I miss
next?
Nick Cage. I miss Nick Cage. Michael.
Yes, Benjamin.
You and I have been watching things on stream.
Yeah, we have.
Because we're
what else
good
are we doing?
people.
What else are we going to do?
And you and I picked up one of the latest animated films to come from the DC line of animated films. We watched Superman Red Son.
Yes, I did, and I watched it with my very good lady friend, and she also watched
Your very good lady friend, and she gave us her opinion.
She did.
Based on that, which I'm going to pull up now, and you're going to spin your wheels very quickly and explain to ladies and gentlemen just what we're talking about today.
Okay, so today we're talking about, since we're talking about things that you can get online on the streams or on the downloads or on the digital downloads, rather than having to go out to the cinema to see, we're going to have a look at one of the most successful series of recent things that have been released on demand, as they say, Ben. So DVD and digital rather than cinematic releases, and that's
the old Divid digital,
the DC animated universe.
Yes, that's our topic for the day, because quite frankly, Michael, they're quite successful compared to a lot of DC's attempts at screen time.
You got them, man.
Got him.
You've taken DC down a notch.
I taught that multi-billion-dollar company a lesson or two.
You've taken them down a notch.
Anyway, we watched Red Son, Michael, which is an adaptation of the 2003 series by Mark Miller, Dave Johnson, and Alex Ross.
Where could people go, Ben, if they want to hear more about that series?
Well, Michael, you and I are going to focus on the movie today.
Yes.
So if you want to hear more about the comic book, this very Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, Collecting Issues will be on that very comic, Superman Red Son, by Mark Miller, Dave Johnson, and Alex Ross. First published in 2003 and Collecting Issues 1 to 3 of that particular occasion.
Alex Ross?
Yeah, Alex Ross did the covers.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Did a few of the covers, little tinkery stuff here and there as well.
Go on, so, Ben.
A few colour choices. But anyway, we watched Red Son, the movie, which is the adaptation of it. And Michael, it was very good.
Benjamin, why don't you
opinion.
very briefly tell us what's the story?
Well, Michael, everybody knows the story of Superman as he is intended to be known. He came from a dying planet. He was sent away to keep him safe. He crash landed on Earth, and he landed in good old Kansas.
Good old Kansas, Mississippi.
Good old Kansas, Mississippi, where he was raised by Ma and Pa Kent.
What a pair of kids.
And he was great. He was raised with good old traditional American values: truth, justice, and the American way. Hoo-wee! Even though in a modern context they would probably be Trump supporters and it'd be a really awkward superhero. But in the traditional Superman thing, he grows up with kind of hot apple pie and, you know, the red, white, and blue and the long cornfields of Kansas.
The long cornfields. That's a famous saying.
It's not a thing. But that's what he grows up to be. In this, Michael,
yes,
we kind of upend that completely. What's the least American thing you can think of, Michael?
Russia.
A bloody commie. And so he lands in Ukraine. He lands in one of the collectives in the Ukraine in 1938.
Yeah.
And Yeah, Michael, instead of being shaped by the long fields of Kansas...
The long cornfields of Kansas.
Fields of Kansas. He's shaped by the long mustache of Stalin. And that's kind of how that goes. So Superman grows up in Soviet-era Russia.
Yes.
And it's pretty intense. And he comes of age during the Cold War.
Yeah.
And everything that ensues from there is just a complete inversion of who you remember Superman to be.
Or is it?
No, not really. That's the point. Apparently, Superman would have been good no matter what.
Exactly. Or would he?
According to Mark Miller's interpretations. So, Michael.
Hello, Benjamin.
Michael.
Yes.
I'm going to read out what your good lady friend said.
Okay.
Because I feel that's a good place for us to start.
Okay, we'll start
on
there.
What kind of movie we were watching.
All right.
So I'm going to read a direct quote. And it says, I've just watched Superman Red Son,
Yes.
and it was very different to any of the DC animated film shows I've watched before. An odd experience not knowing who to root for. Quite the departure from what I've come to expect.
Aha.
So, Michael, there you go now. There's a little thing to get you started. What did you think, Michael? Why do you think she thought this way?
Well-
Maybe she explained it to you a little more than she explained it to me in a quick text.
When you're looking at it, Ben, you're sitting there and you're watching the film and you're going, bloody hell, who's goodies and who's baddies?
Yes, I know. There's a lot of that going on. Michael. It's all very confusing.
It's very
All
confusing.
very confusing. Yeah.
Now, Ben, we're not going to get too much into the comic book here.
No, we can't, Michael, because we're doing that on
We're
Wednesday.
doing that on Wednesday. But
Yes.
I will say, and I think it's important to say, that this, although there is quite a bit in this of who's goodies and who's baddies, there's nowhere near as much as there is in the comic.
No, there's a lot of questions in the comic. This follows the kind of now tried and tested DC animated universe formula of take a great storyline
Yes.
and cut the excess out. Just keep it nice and
I would
nice
argue,
and
Ben,
simple.
that they haven't cut the excess out. I would argue that they've cut out... Now, hold on, Ben. Hold on.
No, I'm gonna let you finish.
Hold on, I'm going to let you finish, Ben. I'm going to let you finish. Beyonce had one of the greatest music videos of all time.
Yeah, I was actually in favor of him not letting her finish. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, as you know. Taylor Swift, the pop sensation, not Taylor Swift,
Not
the
Taylor
cat.
Swift, the
Love
cat.
Taylor Swift, the cat.
Benjamin,
Love you.
here's what was I
Yes.
saying there before we got distracted by Kanye?
Not cutting out enough.
Oh, no. I think what they have cut out this time, because it's a relatively short comic, being as it is 3 premium issues.
But 3 solid issues.
Yeah, so it's a relatively small comic, and they haven't cut out that much. What they have cut out, Ben, is the political nuance.
Yes, because you can't have that in America, Michael, because Americans lose their minds when you talk about any politics.
I'm not necessarily saying that, but that's
I
kind
am.
of how it feels, isn't it?
Yeah, they're babysitting their American audience
Yeah.
because politics in America is too polarized.
Yeah, don't hurt their brain by making it so the Russians aren't the baddies.
Yeah, don't no, the Russians are real bad eggs in this movie,
Yeah.
Michael. Whereas in the comic, Michael, it's more of it's just a different way of approaching things.
Yeah.
And maybe the underlying idea, yes, the actions were horribly flawed and the practical usage of it was horribly flawed, but maybe there's something to the ideology, guys. Maybe. But no.
That's good old commie sympathizer Mark Miller for you, isn't it?
Yeah, dirty commies. It could only have been written by a non-American. Mark Miller is Scottish, for those that don't know. And I
Wee
think
Marky
the way
Miller.
the wee Marky Miller, and the way he writes this comic is very much from an American skeptical or a Russia skeptical mindset.
Yes, but that's the thing. He treats, in the original comic, Ben, and we won't go into this too much because we're not talking about the comic, we're talking about the movie. But in the original comic, he treats both ideologies kind of equally.
Yeah,
But-
it's weighing up pros and cons of both sides.
Yeah, but in the movie, the Russians are definitely evil.
What a pack of bad eggs.
There's no doubt about it. The Russians are the baddies.
I think it really takes away from it, Michael. I'm gonna be honest.
I do, and I actually really didn't. Okay, so here's where I'm going. This is what I want to say.
Go on, you get in there.
Here's what I'm saying. This,
Go on.
on its own, if you've never read the comic, is actually a pretty good movie.
Yes.
It's actually a very good movie.
It's one of the better ones that has come out in recent years, and I'll explain that statement in a few
Yeah,
minutes.
we'll take a look at that in a minute. But it is actually quite a good movie. It's got a beginning, it's got a middle, it's got an end. It's got characters.
Very good, Michael.
Yeah. It's got characters.
You've watched some films.
I know. I've been to film critic school. But
got a really solid lead acting voice, bloody Jason Isaac. Love him.
But I'm only half joking there when I say it's got a beginning, it's got a middle, and an end, because a lot of the DC animated movies can not necessarily have beginnings, middle, and ends.
No, they do not.
I'm looking at The Killing
and
Joke.
we'll get into that in a few minutes.
For example.
Wait, who are you looking at?
The Killing Joke, for example.
Oh, sweet Jesus, Michael. Oh, what we're going to say about that film, Michael. Oh,
but look,
slaps.
So it's actually a great little film. It's a very, very good little film with a nice little message and interesting characters, and you're watching it and going, who's goodies and who's baddies? And
who are the good eggs and bad eggs?
And if you're watching the film and going, who's goodies and who's baddies, then I think the film is doing its job.
Yes, but then it gets especially complicated when you have Superman on the baddies team, and you're like, but wait, Superman's a good egg.
I thought he was goodies. But that's fine, because that means that's interesting.
Okay.
But
the
changes from the comic book, I feel, Ben, are only neutering. There's no benefit. And I don't always
other
say
than
this.
not upsetting their fan base.
When I was watching it, Ben, I was taken back to, if you remember, V for Vendetta.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember the film V for Vendetta, Ben?
I do.
V for Vendetta is a pretty good film.
It's a pretty decent film.
It's a good film. It's a good little action film with some twists and turns and surprises and good acting, and it has a message. But
it does.
But Ben, the message wasn't the message of the original comic.
Right.
The message of the film V for Vendetta was a kind of pro-capitalism, pro-democracy, pro-choice individualism movie versus dictatorships, versus fascism.
Right.
And that wasn't the message of the comic. The comic was a pro-anarchy, anti-government comic.
Less of that system,
basically.
pal.
And if you remember, now, it doesn't take a lot to upset Alan Moore, but that kind of upset Alan Moore.
I'd imagine you having uttered this sentence means that Alan Moore is now upset.
Because we're talking about him.
He's just sensed it somewhere.
In his jizz rag. Oh no, that's Grant Morrison, isn't it? But where's my point here? My point here is, were I Mark Millar, Ben, and no Mark Millar am I. Oh, Ben's family has entered the frame.
I'm just just 1 second.
Hello, family. Hello, Ben's family.
Sorry, my dad is playing classical music as loud as he possibly can.
Well, I can't hear it, Ben, so I don't think the listeners
just to give a little bit of extra oomph to the affair.
So,
sorry, go on.
As I was saying,
I'm gonna let you finish.
Were I Mark Millar, and Ben, no Mark Millar am I.
No great Mark Millar are you.
No great Mark Millar am I. I think I would be pretty upset about them neutering the political message of my book.
Oh, I'd be pure pissed off.
I wonder if he is.
Mark Millar loves to be a controversial figure on occasion, doesn't he? He likes a strong message, and he likes to drive a point home without any finesse. On occasion, I'd say he'd be quite ticked about this, because this is one of his more balanced works.
Yeah.
He certainly wouldn't go that way today.
That's what's missing from the movie.
Yeah, I'd agree with you
it's
there. I hadn't thought about it that way.
It's
but
America
now that
good, Soviets bad.
Now that you've vocalised it, Michael, I could only agree. I could only agree. It's a real shame.
Now, anyway,
to the detriment of the film.
What did you think of the film aside from that?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a kind of return to form. I'll be honest, Michael. The last couple of ones from the DC animated universe have riled me royally.
Okay, well, we'll get into that in a minute.
But in this case, I thought the animation was clean. I thought the character design was unique and consistent with the original art style of the comic book. Mm-hmm. Jason Isaacs knocks it out of the park.
That's Russian Superman.
Yeah, Russian Superman. He's great, Russian Superman.
My name Jason Isaacs. Superman.
That's not what he sounds like.
Yeah,
okay. Jason Isaacs does a lot of
work.
A lot. He does a lot of work with DC, but he also does a lot of Russian critiquing. He was also in Death of Stalin. As one of the military generals in Death of Stalin. So he's a fan of critiquing the Russian Empire. And I just really enjoyed it, Michael. I thought it was very clean. I found it interesting, Michael, because, and I know we're not allowed to talk about the comic very much, I find one of the things they did very well is they gave Lois Lane a much more active motivation than they do in the comic, especially in the first meeting.
Well, yeah, but I mean that was all arranged by Lex.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the problem, isn't it?
Isn't
it?
There's certainly a good bit in this of trying to make the female characters have them a bit more
Rounded.
a bit more, not necessarily rounded, but a bit more. What's the word I'm looking for?
Have a bit more agency.
Agency is the word. Yeah, because
a bit more agency.
If you
Trying to give
remember,
them a bit more agency.
In the comic book, Wonder Woman, is secretly in love with Superman the whole time.
Yes, she's a doe-eyed young lady.
Yeah, and she loses her powers to save him, but he asks her to do it.
Yes,
whereas in
that's
the movie,
why she does it.
She decides to do it.
And that's important.
And that's a big
because
difference.
agency matters.
But it all ends up irrelevant anyway, because she basically shows up, interrupts the Green Lantern fight, and then says, "Right, piss off, I'm out." And that's it. Like they basically redefined. I mean, okay, it wasn't a great representation of Wonder Woman in the comic because she's
not the best,
just pining for Superman the whole time, basically.
Yeah,
but they've entirely replaced that in the film with just man hating. She just hates men.
Yeah, she did the old Themyscira and Amazonian ultra feminist route,
and in the end, she decides she was right all along to hate men.
I found out, Michael, very recently, just on the subject of hating men.
Yeah.
They have the way we have, very toxic community online for men who hate women.
No,
the black pill community.
No, I've never heard of it because I don't spend as much time on Reddit as you do.
You've never heard of that. I found out that it recently has a counterpart. It has the purple pill community on the opposite side. Isn't that interesting?
I thought the counterpart was just called feminism.
No. Very funny.
Oh, I got them.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you did. I don't know if that's a win.
I got them.
I don't know if that's a win, Michael.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that's going to cost us a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the most fascinating thing that I'm seeing is Benjamin's continued effort to keep his family out of the frame.
Yeah, I just want them to leave me alone.
He keeps putting his hand up and shooing people away, and I can't see who they are, but it's a constant battle. It's quite entertaining.
It's quite difficult. Vexing, to say the least. Now, Benjamin, to say the least.
Let's go briefly into spoilers. Because the comic book had one of the best twist endings of all time.
Yes, which was a real...
And the movie doesn't.
Shimmy, shimmy, shake.
They just don't. They just drop it completely.
They won't follow through, Michael. They wouldn't follow through.
It's weird, isn't it?
Right, we doing full spoilers for the comic?
Full spoilers for the comic and the film.
Okay, so in the comic book,
yes,
it turns out, Michael, that Kal-El didn't travel from a distant planet across space.
No.
He traveled across time from the same planet.
Yeah.
Superman's kind of an immortal being.
And the feud... No, he's not.
Well, he's kind of in the comic, isn't he? He sees a lot of time.
Well, he lives for a very long time, but the last part is told from outside of his perspective.
No, that's true. That's fair enough. But anyway.
Yes, go on.
He bloody watch it, and it turns out that Kal-El is a Jor-El, his father, is a distant descendant of Lex Luthor. I think he says a descendant to the time of 50.
Yeah, which actually doesn't make sense.
To the time of 50. Yeah, but look, Mark Miller did a solid enough job. We'll give him a pass on that last one.
And you know what the funny thing is? I can see your brother in the mirror.
It's my sister, but yeah.
I thought it was your brother's head. The funny thing is, the movie kind of briefly hints at it when it has Jimmy Olsen calling Lex Luthor Mr. L.
Yeah.
And then doesn't follow
up.
And
then I was like, oh good, they're gonna commit.
Yeah, but it's weird.
But they don't. But Michael, what do they do instead?
We're mostly nitpicking here. I don't want to. Let's go back to the no bummer.
It is an adaptation, not a shot for shot remake.
Yeah,
but,
there are a few other little disappointing things, like in the comic, Ben. The whole point that Superman has is he has managed to take over his world hegemony completely bloodlessly.
Yeah,
but in the movie, because the Russians have to be the bad guys a little bit.
Oh, they do a little bit of bloody.
They do a little bit of bloody and a little bit of evading. And they take one of Superman's most noteworthy lines from the comic, which was, this invasion has been entirely... Or this... Not invasion. This system has been entirely bloodless. And in the movie, he says this system has been, with some exceptions, entirely bloodless.
Why would you butcher that
Just
famous
neuter
line?
it. Just neuter the whole thing. Anyway, look, it's a very good film. It's a very enjoyable film.
Yes.
But it does lose the message. So if what you enjoyed about the original was the message...
Oh, don't go watch that film.
Yeah, but if what you enjoyed about it was Batman being a madman and being a terrorist and Wonder Woman is a lesbian and Superman is Russian, get on board.
Oh, go take a look at that film.
Take a look at that film. Anyway, Ben.
Anyway, so that was so that got us into really everything that we're going to be taking a look at for this week, which is all the DC animated universe from top to bottom.
I don't think we'll do it from top to bottom, Ben, because it's...
No, we don't have that much time, Michael. But I like hyperbole, and that's just how I felt about it. So, taking a look at this, Michael, it's important to distinguish right off the bat that the DC animated universe is very much its own thing, separate from Batman the Animated Series and Justice League Animated.
Right.
Those have affectionately been christened the Timverse
for Bruce
by fans for Bruce Timm. And then really what we see from there is that does give us the birth of kind of straight-to-video adaptations of famous superheroes. For example, Mask of the Phantasm is really the first example of a fully animated feature-length film from DC, and that's in 1997.
1997, Ben. That was ages ago. How many years ago was that,
Yes.
Ben?
That was ages ago, Michael. I am 28, take 6 years off that. It was 22 years ago. 21 years ago?
23. Close enough.
23 years ago. Oh, God, I'm terrible at maths and dates and all that kind of thing. So that was 1997, and that kind of spawned a bunch of Batman the Animated Series spin-offs. There was Batman Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero. There was Batman Mystery of Batwoman.
Return of the Joker.
Return of the Joker, which was a Batman Beyond adaptation. And then, Michael,
yes,
in 2007, along comes
how long ago
Superman.
Was that,
I was 15, 16. Oh, no. It was about 12 years ago. 12 years
close
ago.
enough. Yeah, this is brilliant. You can just take 7 away from 20. It's
no, I can't. No, I can't. Because that would make an awful lot of sense. So, my family has just gone walking the dog. So, finally, I have some peace. Ladies and gentlemen, Superman Death of Superman was released in 2007.
I've seen
and that was their adaptation of the famous thing. What do you think of it, Michael?
From what I remember, it felt a bit rushed.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, Michael.
Right.
Don't you worry.
Okay.
Following that in 2008, because it was mildly successful, Michael, it did quite well. So they tried another one. They took another one of their kind of classic storylines, Justice League New Frontier, with Mr. Darwin Cook at the helm. And they adapted that into their own little kind of version of that as well.
Was that 2008?
Yeah, 2008,
Bloody
Michael.
hell.
2008.
That's
yeah.
the one where Superman fights the Captain Atom. Is that right?
No, I think you're thinking of Superman, Batman, Public Enemies.
Oh, I am. You're right.
I think you're thinking of Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. Justice League New Frontier is a fantastic kind of Silver Age look at all those heroes. And again, it has, I suppose, some similar critiques to what we saw in Superman Red Son, where you're investigating the ideology of America in that kind of American skeptic time in the 1950s, where maybe it's not all apple pie and long cornfields of Kansas, maybe it's not all that. Can we I'm assuming we're calling the episode this week Long Cornfields of Kansas.
Well, we are now.
Which would be good. So that came out and that did very well, Michael, which launched really, I suppose, the heyday of this little DC animated universe project. In 2009 we got Wonder Woman.
I saw that.
She got her own film.
That was with what's her face as Wonder Woman, if you remember.
Yeah, what's her face?
You're one from
noted actress.
You're one from isn't she friend of J.J. Abrams?
I have no idea. I'm going to look her up now.
Carrie something.
Anyway, one of the interesting things about this
is good podcasting, isn't it?
It largely inspired the plot of the Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot. it largely inspired that, because the villain in the animated one was Ares masquerading as a politician. And wouldn't you know it, bloody Ares masquerading as a politician is what we got in the live action film as well. So a lot of that, and a lot of the action sequences. Kerry Russell. Yeah, there we go. House of Cards. Kerry Russell. No, that's not her, is it?
No, Kerry Russell. Kerry Russell, she was in Felicity.
It means nothing to me. Anyway, Vienna. Moving on from there, in 2009 we also got Green Lantern First Flight,
I think it's
which was kind
Greg Lantern.
Greg Lantern First Flight.
Yeah.
And that was with his famous villain Sinister O. Greg Lantern and the Sinister O. And yeah, that was excellent, Michael. Sinestro in that particular iteration is probably one of the most fleshed out DC villains I've ever seen on screen. Very, very good. Clear motivations. He's just an overzealous police officer that decides to go in towards the kind of fascism, crush them under your boot heel route. He's an order fanatic. It's pretty interesting, Michael. Pretty interesting characterization. That was so successful, Michael, that it changed the way a lot of writers write Sinestro from that point on.
Oh.
The Sinister O. Ooh. And then, Michael, in 2009 also came Batman Superman Public Enemies, which was from the very, 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 very popular Superman Batman comic run. And that's where they go up against the US government because Lex Luthor got himself elected as president.
That is the one based on Ed McGuinness's art, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is.
And that's the one where they take on Captain Atom as a kind of government superhero, and he has to fight them.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm not imagining things that was real. That happened.
No, that's a real thing. Very famous storyline. Batman, Superman, Public Enemies. That brings up an interesting point, Michael.
Okay.
A lot of these early ones are based on the artwork of the comic book that inspires them, which is something I thought was really cool and something I've always really enjoyed of the DC animated universe. You could watch, for example, Batman, Superman, Public Enemies.
I have.
And you could watch the animation and say, oh, that looks really like Ed McGuinness' style, because it was based directly on his style. And that kind of attention to detail and that dedication to the original artist's artwork was always something that was really cool. They try and transfer the essence of those character designs over to the animated movies, and I thought it made them really enjoyable, Michael. A little extra layer of fan service.
A little extra twist, a little extra bit of spice for the fans.
To be enjoyed. Exactly.
No,
Moving on from there, Michael, we had probably their most, in terms of making good films.
Yes.
In terms of making good films.
Yes.
2010 was their peak.
Was their renaissance, their peak de nonsense.
Yes.
I've made up a phrase.
Let's go with that. I think you have, but I'm going to let you have it, Michael, because you've been quarantined for a long time, and we want to make sure you're okay. This gave us Batman Under the Red Hood, Superman Batman Apocalypse, and All-Star Superman. It gave us way more than that. It gave us Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, Batman Under the Red Hood, Superman Batman Apocalypse, All-Star Batman, All-Star Superman. That's it. Okay,
bloody
so that's
hell.
what we got.
The Korean animators were busy that year.
They were busy that year. Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, spoilers, is my favourite DC animated universe story.
That one's pretty good. That's the one where the Injustice... No, what are they called?
The Crime Syndicate.
Yeah. And they have to fight them.
Yeah, they're real bad eggs, and it's based on Wee Granty M and his shenanigans. Wee Granty M and his weird kink for super powerful dominatrixy Wonder Woman...
and then
opposites.
Batman fights her and beats her with cunning.
Yeah, she wants to keep him as her pet.
Yeah,
but Batman bloody
he
goes at it.
He beats her with cunning.
He beats her with pure cunning, not cunning linguisting.
No,
but just cunning, just good old fashioned all American cunning. And these are really impressive as well. But Michael, then we start to see 2011 is another good year for them. They get All-Star Superman, Green Lantern, Emerald Knights, Batman Year One, and then 2012, Justice League Doom. And that brings us kind of up as we go along to the Flashpoint Paradox. And then, Michael...
Yes?
Things start to go downhill.
Oh, no.
After the Flashpoint Paradox. Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit earlier, Michael, that sometimes pacing is a little bit off in these films.
Go on.
And... sometimes you might get a beginning and you might get an end, but where's the middle? Or sometimes you might get a big old dose of middle, but where's my end? Where's my end gone? Where's my reason for any of this? And it's just not there. And Michael, that's because after Flashpoint, I think DC thought they had kind of found the goose that laid the golden egg.
Right, Flashpoint.
And just this animated formula that they had come up with. It's like, people want to see us adapting stories. And Flashpoint was kind of their big experiment, because Flashpoint is a relatively new DC storyline.
Yeah, but it keeps it's been influential.
Yeah, it has. And I think really what it was for DC was a watershed moment. They were like, well, they've enjoyed all our classic storylines being adapted, but what if we try this with a not so classic storyline? And they did, and then it was like, oh, great, that sold like hotcakes. So let's keep doing that. And then we went through the whole mess of DC Rebirth and New 52 and all that crap.
So negative, Ben.
Jim Lee, Jeff John. No, I didn't mind. Some of those storylines were great, and some of the realignings, but the Justice League stuff was not great. I'm a huge Justice League fan, as you know, Michael. And Jim Lee and Jeff Johns decided to make a lot of their characters edgier. They tried to make Superman into a badass, and it just didn't work out very well. And then they started to do a series where they would take these characters and kind of use the modern storyline. So we had Justice League War, which was kind of like a follow-up to their Darkseid arc that they did in the New Justice League. Then we got Son of Batman, which was to do with Grant Morrison's introduction of Batman and Son in his kind of Batman RIP arc. We got Assault on Arkham, which was pretty much designed to tie in with the video game. Then we got Justice League Throne of Atlantis, which was designed to tie in with their New 52 Aquaman line. And then we got Batman vs. Robin, which was another follow-on to the thing. And Michael, the standard in all of those drops the storytelling, drops the character dynamics, drops the personal development of a lot of the characters in favor of action, a little bit more action.
Well, people like action, especially from cartoons.
No, absolutely. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but a feature-length action film where it's just action is tough to sustain.
Right.
And I think they kind of move from fan service to... they kind of move from substance and good storytelling to fan service, where it's like, you want to see Superman take on Batman? Here you go. You want to see da-da-da? And they kind of start doing that. One of the things that goes by the wayside, Michael, is that they no longer keep matching the animation style to their artists from the original storylines. So now they go for this streamlined, very simple character design, and they start to reuse those character designs in each film. So the thought and care that goes into the process here, Michael, begins to kind of drift out to sea a little bit. And the runtimes start to get a bit shorter. So you start losing that space for good storytelling, if you know how to pronounce words correctly. Good storytelling and beginning, middle, and end, etc. And it really starts to affect the overall product. Also, because they start making so many, Michael, their budget starts to dilute, and the animation takes a serious drop in quality. I don't know if you've noticed that in the more recent ones.
Oh,
you hear me?
Yeah, was that a question?
Sorry.
You went off on one there, Bert, a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
So to be honest, I wasn't really expecting to come back in. I was just letting you spin your wheels.
Sorry.
No, I haven't.
Sorry, that was a lot of wheel spinning, ladies and gentlemen.
I haven't noticed, actually, to be honest, that the animation is taken, because I haven't seen most of those.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough.
I have
Don't.
seen...
It's very disappointing.
All right. Well, why don't you let us know what you really think there, Ben? How's the isolation affecting you?
I'm actually getting crankier, Michael. I think I'm worse than I've ever been. I'm not going to lie. It turns out that regular time outside and interacting with other people was all that kept me from being the crankiest man alive.
The crankiest crank you ever cranked. I'm just going to have a look at how long that rant was, Ben. I think it was about 8 minutes.
Oh, no.
I think that
so sorry.
That was an 8 minute.
I'm so sorry.
That was an 8 minute long rant.
I'm so sorry.
What's wrong with films these days?
No, it's
Here's what's wrong with films these days. Now, let me tell you, when I was a young man, everybody was animating films in the style of the comic that inspired them. And that was a good way to do things, wasn't it, when I was a young fellow? Of course, society now...
Sorry, that was poor. Would you like to cut this out of the podcast and do it again?
No, I think it's very important that we maintain this moment, the moment that Ben broke.
Well, that's it, ladies. That's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh God, a bit of levity. Oh, very good.
So,
Oh God.
what do you think, Michael?
I don't know what to think anymore. I used to think that I quite liked them, but now I think that it's not as good as in my day.
Okay, fair enough. The earlier ones are good. It's just when they start, like I said, I think DC thought they found a magic formula and just started making as many as they could, and the quality kind of dropped
very good
as they went. I don't know if it's anything to do with then and now. I think it's just a shift in marketing strategy. Also, the old creative team behind a lot of those early ones, one of the guys passed away, unfortunately, and he was the man behind a lot of the Timverse and JLA and stuff like that, and unfortunately he passed away, and then the other two lead creators on that team moved on to new projects, and two new guys took over. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Marvel animated.
I have. They're not terribly good generally.
Yeah, so basically the team behind those Marvel movies got a job with Warner Brothers, Jay Olivia and Sam Liu, and those Marvel movies are not great from a number of perspectives. Not the big universe, but they got to take over on all the DC projects from Flashpoint onwards. So I don't normally like to attribute massive drops because they're huge creative endeavors with a big team, but maybe.
Seems like those two might be bad eggs. Let's get them.
Yeah, well, let's get them. Let's brigade them. No, let's not. Michael, what do you think? Tell me more.
I don't know. I've really lost all sense of reality in the last 15 minutes, to be honest.
I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
That wasn't intentional.
It was pretty funny. I have to say, man, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very good.
Why didn't you just stop me?
I don't
you
know.
are more than welcome.
I kind of just got sucked in by it.
Fair enough.
It was like The Color Out of Space. I just got absorbed in. I went, this guy really doesn't like these films.
I do. That's the thing. I really like some of them. Would you like to give us your top picks before we finish up,
I actually
Michael?
quite liked Superman Red Son. I think that might have been my favourite of them.
Yes, it's pretty good, pretty solid, but that's a bit of a return to form.
Yeah.
So I mean that does undermine most, if not all, of my argument. But it's one of the many that's come out recently. I have a mini list, Michael, just to show you that I don't hate them all.
Okay.
My favorites, if you take nothing else from this podcast, my favorites of them are Under the Red Hood, which was an adaptation of the famous Jason Todd one. Probably one of the best voice casts.
Is that the one with your favourite, Jensen Ackles?
Jensen Ackles, my doppelganger, Jensen Ackles. And then it has a pretty solid turn from John DiMaggio as the Joker, and Jason Isaacs as Black
He's
Mask.
always in it.
Jason Isaacs loves a little bit of work, and then it's a much older Batman taking over from Kevin Conroy. This one caused a lot of controversy because it was the first time in a long time that they kind of recast the voice of Batman, and it wasn't Kevin Conroy, and everyone was like, "Oh, it has to be Kevin Conroy," and then they watched it, and people were like, "Oh, this is actually
it's fine without Kevin Conroy.
It's actually pretty good. So that was a pretty enjoyable one. And then the other three that I would recommend, JLA Doom, Justice League Doom, which I think is probably one of the best Justice Leagues ever. They take the Grant Morrison arc where Batman comes up with a bunch of... They take his Tower of Babel arc and apply it in a kind of different direction, and it makes a really interesting film. Crisis on Two Earths, which is my all-time favorite. Go watch it. It's great. And then finally, Superman versus the Elite, which is an adaptation of a really mid-2000s thing where Batman comes up against a villain called Manchester Black,
it's basically
who wears a big black trench coat.
The Authority, and, Superman versus the Authority.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And it's great. It's a really enjoyable film. So there you go. Michael. Sorry about that, listeners. I apologise.
Good rant.
I apologise about my rant.
Good rant, Ben.
I'm sorry. I don't want it to be the ranty podcast. All right. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the hour mark, which is a longer podcast than usual, but you're in quarantine. You don't have a commute to go on today,
you can't
so
escape.
you can have a little bit of extra time. What do you think of the DC animated universe? What are your top picks as we go along? More importantly, what are you watching and streaming during your self-isolation? Do you have any recommendations for us? Do you have any recommendations for our wider audience? Get in touch with us in a number of places and let us know. We're on the interwebs at seomrabeag.com, seomrabeag.com. It does indeed. We're also on the gram at Seomrabeag, SEOMRABEAG. And you can get in touch with us in a number of different ways. If you're listening to us on YouTube, give us an L comment.
Hi,
You
Anisha.
get in touch with us that way. And give us an L, subscribe and like. If you're listening to us on Spotify, do share this with all your chums. You can do it by tapping the little share icon at the top.
Stick
And you
it
can put
on
it in
the
your
Insta.
Instagram story. All they have to do is push the button. We'd really appreciate that, guys. And give us a follow. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, give us a
Please don't
review.
give us an 8-minute review of how things have gone downhill over the last few years.
Well, I mean, you can
I
if
mean,
you
it'd
want.
be pretty funny. Actually, do that.
Apparently, I've
Do
set
do
that standard. Apparently, I've set that standard from now on. And if you listen to us on Google Podcasts, share us with your
Yes.
friends. That's it from me this week, Michael. If you haven't had enough of Red Sun, do listen to us
We're talking
on
about Red Sun.
Wednesday when we're doing our
The
next
comic,
one.
not the film.
Yeah, it's going to be great. The comic, not the film. All right, that's it from us, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye. We hope you're doing well, happy, healthy, etc.
Bye.
Bye-bye.